It was a quiet Friday morning just 8 days ago when federal immigration agents knocked on the door of an apartment at Columbia University. They were looking for Ranjani Srinivasan, a 37-year-old Fulbright scholar from India who had recently learned that her US student visa had been revoked. She wasn't home, and that was just the beginning of a chain of events that would leave the student and university community reeling. Srinivasan, a doctoral candidate in urban planning, had spent weeks awaiting an answer to a simple question: why was her US visa revoked? No explanation had been provided by the United States State Department except a vague reference to new information. What she didn't know was that her life was about to spiral into a complex web of federal immigration, enforcement, political speech, and ultimately a decision to flee the United States of America. The night after the agents knocked, Srinivasan made a fateful choice. In a move that would alter the course of her academic career, she packed a small bag, left her cat with a friend, and boarded a flight to Canada from the LaGuardia airport. This was the beginning of a journey she never expected to take. As she was boarding her flight, the situation took another sharp turn. Mahmood Khalil, another Columbia student, was arrested by federal immigration authorities in his campus housing. Khalil's arrest sent shockwaves through the campus community. The next day, the federal agents returned to Srinivasan's apartment armed with a judicial warrant. But by then, she was already out of the country. In a first reaction to the New York Times, she said, and I quote, "The atmosphere seemed so volatile and dangerous. So I just made a quick decision." So what exactly led to Ranjani fleeing the country? The road that led to Srinivasan's departure from the United States started nearly a year ago during a pro-Palestinian protest on Columbia's campus. Srinivasan wasn't part of the protest. In fact, she had spent the day with friends and was simply trying to return home when chaos broke out between the protesters and the police. In the ensuing confusion, she was caught in a mass detention along with nearly 100 others. Srinivasan was issued 2 court summons, one for obstructing traffic and another for refusing to disperse. But the case was quickly dismissed and she didn't end up with a criminal record. She didn't think much of it at that time until her US visa renewal came up. When she filled out the form, she didn't disclose the summonses, believing that since the charges had been dropped, there was nothing to report. Admitting that she would have provided the information had she understood the implications, Srinivasan said that maybe that was my mistake. But that omission would soon become central to her troubles. Typically, US visa revocations are a result of visa overstays, criminal convictions, or fraud. It's rare for the Immigration and Customs Enforcement, that is the ICE, to go after a student, especially one with no criminal record, and that too so aggressively. Federal agents don't usually conduct raids on college campuses to apprehend students unless there is a clear evidence of serious wrongdoing. Meanwhile, Srinivasan's legal team contends that her situation isn't just about paperwork, it's about her political views. Srinivasan has been vocal about her support for Palestinian rights, sharing posts and signing open letters critical of the Israeli government's actions in Gaza. However, she insists that she was never involved in any organized campus group. Laughing off the idea, she said, "I'm just surprised that I'm a person of interest. I'm kind of a rando, like an absolute rando." Still, her legal team believes that her social media activity, particularly her posts critical of the Israeli government, played a significant role in attracting attention from the US federal authorities. While there is no direct evidence linking her activism to the visa revocation, it has become clear that her case has raised troubling questions about the intersection of political speech and immigration enforcement. The situation escalated on the 5th of March when Srinivasan received an unexpected email from the US Consulate of Chennai. It stated that her student visa had been revoked. No explanation was provided, just a vague reference to new information that had come to light. Confused and unsure of what to do next, she contacted Colombia's International Student Office. The university confirmed that while the revocation was effective immediately, she could stay in the United States for the time being to finish her studies. But the very next morning, on the 7th of March, US federal agents knocked on her door. Srinivasan's roommate, who's also a Columbia student, refused to let them in, and the agents left. Srinivasan, however, decided that it was time to leave. Anticipating further visits, she packed up her things and left the apartment that evening itself. On the 14th of March, days after the agent's visit, Srinivasan received an email from Colombia informing her that her enrollment had been withdrawn due to her visa status. She was also told to vacate her student housing. That night, US federal agents returned with a search warrant. But by then, Srinivasan had already crossed into Canada, leaving behind a life she had worked so hard to build. Now in Canada, Ranjani Srinivasan faces an uncertain future. Her studies, her career and her political voice all hang in the balance. But one thing is certain, she believes her political speech should never have led to this. Reflecting on her experience, she said, and I quote, "I'm fearful that even the most low-level political speech can turn into this dystopian nightmare, where somebody is calling you a terrorist, sympathizer and making you literally fear for your life and your safety." As for what happens next, Srinivasan is unsure, but one thing is clear. Her fight is far from over and she's determined to ensure that her story isn't just a personal tragedy, but a warning about the dangers of political repression in the United States of America. For now, she watches from Canada as her case continues to unfold, a quiet but powerful reminder of the precariousness faced by international students, especially those with political opinions that diverge from the mainstream. Lastly, she said, and I quote, "I never thought I would end up here, but here I am."
Education, not deportation! Education, not deportation! ICE has no place in our nation! ICE has no place in our nation! Education, not deportation! Education, not deportation!
He didn't commit any act of violence. He never advocated for violence. All he did was participate in protest against an unjust policy of the government. ICE, KKK, Iowa, they're all the same. ICE, KKK,